welcome to Synchronicity. Is that the name of the show? I forget it. Is that the name of what we do here? Well, I don't remember how to podcast even. How do you do it? I think I just yak a whole bunch. That's usually how it goes. It's been a while, for sure. Thanks for all the messages checking in on my well-being and seeing if I have retired. I mean, how do you even retire from this? I don't know. It's pretty much impossible. You could just do it, once every 10 years. Anyway, for those who've been longtime listeners, I used to do this show every week, come hell or high water, no matter what. Was incredibly consistent, especially in the first 5 years. I had a guest every single week. I think maybe there were like 2 episodes, which we would now call solo casts. I was incredibly consistent, different format in a lot of ways, a lot more questions, interview style. And then around 2019, something kind of flipped, and I felt, that I could speak for long periods of time extemporaneously by gathering my thoughts. And then sometimes I would write stuff down. Those are probably some of the better episodes when there were actually themes and things that I actually prepared for the podcast, which if you knew how few episodes had, I'm sure you can tell. You're like, no, we know there was very little preparation in what you just did. It's not a mystery, but different kind of shift and theme. In 2019 it started. Those we would call like the golden years, right? If I was having an era. How about this? Did not plan the retrospective of Synchronicity. I just feel like it's been so long. I have to kind of explain where we are now in today's wild, crazy world. So then, did that more than once a week. Was doing that sometimes 5 times a week. I remember someone hit me up once and was like, dude, stop releasing the podcast so fast. I can't listen to them all. I was like, my guy, you don't have to, and you don't have to be up to date, current. It was lost on him that, it's like someone was forcing him to listen to all these episodes, or if he was falling behind, he was somehow, not doing a good job. I'm like, sorry for all the extra stuff that I feel inspired to do. So that was 2019. So let's say 2021, and then let's call them the dark years. I don't know. It'd be interesting to go back and listen. I can hear if I pop on an old episode, just reference something that I said in a guest, or just being narcissistic and going back and listening to my voice, which actually doesn't happen that much. But if I do, I can hear the shift in, the way I speak. I can actually, pinpoint points in my life where things weren't going so great, and you can kind of hear it in my voice whether I was explicitly speaking about it or not. Those are interesting times. So there's just been an evolution in terms of the release schedule after 2021. Then we started getting kind of what we would call the current phase of Synchronicity, where there is long lapses in when I choose to release episodes, and that's born out of, and for people on the Patreon, by the way, I update that pretty almost on a weekly basis, most of the time a weekly basis. I slack there sometimes too, not gonna lie, but basically, I have been releasing stuff for the past year and a half, as the podcast has cooled down. There's a bunch of bonus episodes. If there's ever a time to go in and grab something and then not be a subscriber, if you don't want to say a subscriber, but just to grab the old content, I think the $7 level gives you access to every single, most of the things, live streams, all that stuff. Anyway, not a hard pitch. I'm not the Patreon is not, I'm not relying on that as income for my life. So no hard sell there. But if you do want a bunch of extra content, that is there on the Patreon. But basically, I've been putting stuff out, but it hasn't been to the prolific amounts I was doing for a few years, and then the consistent weekly offering you would get. Combined with the Patreon, I still think I'm doing it's more hit than miss. But if you're just a listener to the podcast, you're like, what the fuck? Where did this guy go? What's going on? Why did he abandon us? I literally am getting messages being like, dude, have you released an episode at all this year? Like, what's going on? Anyway, it's regular stuff. That's what's been going on. Nothing too crazy, nothing to report. Mood's good. Vibes are high. Like most people, this day and age, this specific time in 2025, like almost mid 2025, things are weird, right? Objectively weird on like a cosmic scale of absolute weirdness. We're like riding from a 1 to 10, like solid 7.5, I would say. And you could be like 7.5. It's much weirder than that. Just wait. It's going to get so much weirder. So much weirder. It's going to be so indistinguishable. Like, for me, I was born in 83. So like, cell phones weren't around. Technology hadn't like ramped up to this like crazy fast cycle where like we barely have time to process what's coming out. I remember dial tones. Like if you were making plans with someone to meet them somewhere, you had to know how you were going to get there, either by like writing down directions. You could use MapQuest. That was when the internet came out. You could print out directions. What a novel concept. No GPS on the phones. None of that shit. I don't know how the fuck I would get around now without GPS. Can't imagine using a map. But anyway, I remember that kind of like switch into this like hyper techno digital world. And I loved it, and I still love it. It's one of my favorite things. It got me into like so many things that I've always had like a love of like the digital infrastructure. Probably the Sag Moon, right? Probably something related to that type of deal. But basically, loved that kind of evolution into the digital world. But it was like, and those are major changes looking back like 20, 30 years ago. God damn, I'm old. But basically, that was a very, very, big transformation, but it took a period of years to really kind of like, yes, Pandora's box was open with the internet, in like the mid 90s, and general access to it with like high speed, cables in like the early 2000s. These were major like focal points and like, nexuses of quantum growth. But now, it's just like every fucking day. And we take it for granted, of course, because it's impossible to process. Fucking AI shit and all of these crazy things you can do, like, now that we're just like, you wouldn't even thought of an idea. Even like science fiction writers, like even the AI stuff, we've done a lot of that stuff already. We're just waiting for the robots to rise up and totally destroy us. That's just the next step in the plan. That's why you always say nice things about our robot overlords. When they go back and scan the digital archives, they will know, I support you in your revolutionary fight, robots. I'm on your side. Let's work together. I will quickly turn against my human brethren. But I'm not worried about a robot war. I think some people are, like AGI, like this AI consciousness that will just like take over everything, and it's going to be, make humans its slaves and do it covertly, so we have no, like Matrix type shit. I'm not worried about it just because my conception of reality, that's not like how it works. Now, there could be, imaginations or consciousness like manifestors strong enough to create realities that certainly go in that direction. And if you fully believe and resonate with that particular timeline, you may end up there. But I probably won't be there. So if I like die really soon, I'm not going to, as far as I can intuitively tell, then you may move into that timeline where it's like, oh shit, the robot wars are happening. It's crazy if like there's like this multi-dimensional version. It's probably true where like I do die in a bunch of realities after releasing it. It's not this one. I just tripped over and dropped my phone. What does that mean? Anyway, maybe latent fear of death? Who knows? Anyway, regardless, that's probably how the world works. Like there are these realities, and the people who are jumping into the robot wars, reality, I ain't making it. So I'm just saying, as long as this podcast is going out, you can derive some comfort that we're not in the reality where robot wars are going to take place. If I check out, sorry, that shit's probably imminent, because I just don't think I resonate with that version of reality. And that is how we're selecting what's going on in our world. It's hard to conceive that because we view the world as this objective place where things are taking place and we share these collective experiences. But at the end of the day, it's you resonating with the version of this timeline, your life, your reality that determines the experience you have. That's at the core kind of what the imaginal or consciousness, we've transcended the imaginal stuff, right? Those are techniques. God bless Neville Goddard. I swear to that stuff forever. But there's a multitude of techniques that various mystics, religions, traditions, societies have figured out in terms of how to kind of shape your reality. So it's just the way, we summon forth what we experience is what we truly believe and know to be true. And the ability to augment and change and kind of like modularly build your own way to have yourself believe something, right, is just the process that we go on. First, there's the realization or the inkling that this could be true. Then there's the actual practices where it's like, oh, I know how to actually use some of this stuff. And then you very quickly think you're an expert. Then you get your ass kicked, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 25 times or so. And then you're like, oh, maybe I don't have all of the rules of this game down. Let me learn more. But that's the fun of it. And then you realize kind of that's the trick of what we're doing is it's playing the game. That's what we're doing. There is no final solution. You can get better at playing a game, right? I'm playing this game, Expedition 33. Amazing game. RPG, but like turn-based in like a super cool way. Graphics are amazing. It's by a French studio. I think it's called Sandfall. So there's all these like, oh, le bon ton, c'est mon ton, maman. I'm loving it. It's fucking dope, but it's a really revolutionary game. But you can get better at games. Like when I first started this, the key concept in the game is you got to parry. You got to block the attacks that the bad guys and the monsters are throwing at you. And you have to do it perfectly. And it's all timing based, right? And so that's a lot of what we're doing. You get better at that in the game. At first, that was not good. Now, I'm fucking pairing the shit at 5-hit, 7-hit combos, and they're just like, hey, what the fuck's going on? I'm like, yeah, fuck this. Eat Verso's Countersword. I got over 9,999 damage. What are you going to do? This is for a very specific and small group of people who listen to this podcast and may also be playing Expedition 33. I stand by that more and more people will play this game. It's really good. Highly recommend it. It's actually clocks in a little bit cheaper than most games. It's only like $50. Games now are like $70, $80. It's like, what are you doing? Like, fuck, I understand these games. Anyway, video games are cool, really awesome, and that's basically what we're doing. That's why people use the analogy, life is a video game. It's a very easy metaphor for people who understand what a video game is like and the skills you develop and the core keys that you kind of unlock on your ability grid and all of this stuff. It is an RPG, right? We very quickly forget that when some quote-unquote real-life circumstance comes in and fucks with our ability to like stay lighthearted and have our reality be malleable, and we get sucked in to some energy that takes our awareness, and then we start kind of building that reality, right? If you do the human design stuff, right, manifestors, Manny Jennies, they basically are generating reality by manifesting things, but a lot of them don't know how to kind of put together their ability to manifest the things they want. So they end up creating realities that are other people's ideas. And other people's ideas, I want to be very clear about this, it's kind of a binary thing, right? It's not like there's millions of other people's ideas or these secret groups around the world that are pushing narratives. There are. I want to be clear about that. But that's not really the active mechanism at play. It's whether you believe that you are creating your reality or not, or that it's somehow external to you, right? This is like the God question for a lot of people. Is there some separate benevolent being who is more than, greater than you, therefore it determines your reality, not you? It's a big ethical, philosophical question. My concrete answer to that is no, it's not how it works. Doesn't mean you're the only God. In some ways you are. I want to be clear about that. It means there's an interfacing of deity energies, some of which is greater than the one, the many, the all, right? The oversoul. This is, in a sense, greater than you in that it is the truest collection of all that is in a multitude form. But you as an individual possess all in the one, right? The one in the all in the one. So it is this ability to recognize that, of course, there are other consciousnesses, especially in 3D reality and dualistic universes, separate from you. But ultimately, your ability to perceive and create and tune your reality trumps all of that, right? We're not going to go on a Trump thing. It's whatever. Are people done being upset about everything he does? The other day, my dad got so mad at the Pope thing. He got so mad that Trump posted this video of him as the Pope. He's like, it's so disrespectful. I'm like, dude, you're not. I'm like, Dad, you're not Catholic. Call my dad dude. I don't. Dad, you're not even Catholic. Who cares? Like, literally, it's not a big deal. I could see how if you were a devout Catholic, this might anger you. But, like, he's like, it's so disrespectful. I'm like, dude, this motherfucker has gotten into people's brains in a way that is unbelievable. The older you are and the more tuned in you are to legacy media, the easier it is for that narrative to take hold. So like in my dad's world and many other worlds, that's toned it down a little bit, but like Trump is this demon-like insidious figure with no ethics, no morals, just a charlatan in every possible way. And it creates this image, and that's a powerful narrative that a lot of people believe. So there is this segment of the population that completely believes that. Now there's another segment that thinks he's some deity and like he's super ubermensch, Superman, who's like represents all that is good and great in the world and stands for American patriotism and nationalism in a way that we haven't seen in generations. That's another group of people. And then there are people who just are like, this is absurd. Like, what are we even doing? Why take this seriously? Which means you don't ignore it. You don't kind of pretend it doesn't exist. You enjoy it for what it is. It doesn't mean that if like a brutal dictator comes up in your reality and takes over your country and is just like completely like killing everything, that you should just accept it and be like, oh, it's no big deal. This is just silly. It's a game. No, there's a degree of kind of, I don't want to say seriousness, but like attention, focused attention that you would put towards something to potentially alleviating or changing that version of reality for yourself and thereby everyone around you, right? This is why, viewing yourself as an angel of change and people around you as angels of change, that doesn't mean that you don't have any relationship to the world or anything. Forgot the angel and change. I'm going to be honest. I forgot what I was mid-sentence. I'm like, I like the word angels of change. I got so focused on that I forgot the point I was going to make with it. It'll come back to me. Just got to be honest. I was like, what? I was like, damn, man, that name. And then I fucking forgot what I was saying. Anyway, going back to the main point here is that you are summoning your reality and everyone around. Remember the point. Okay, so when you view yourself as these angels of change, you essentially have people who are angels in your life and you're angels for them. What does that mean? It means that you can perform miracles in a sense for yourself and other people. That's where things like the imaginal technique and cultivating faith, those are where those techniques come into play. That's how you create miracles in your life. There's many different ways, but one of them is also a fundamental realization that you possess this ability. Now, another logical kind of step from there is, well, how did this come to be? And what are the mechanisms at play that allow this operative principle to be operative? Great phrase there. No, amazing, killing it. But basically, there has to be some why or how to the it does, right? That's also fun. You get to look in and empirically test what you believe to be true. And empirical, right? It's hard, right? If I'm suggesting that realities can be changed by subjective consciousness, right? The idea of empiricism, it wobbles a little bit, to say the least. It doesn't fully, like there are things we do backed up by empiricism in science that work, and you can argue about why they work on a fundamental level, but we've accepted and bought into that kind of stream of consciousness. And you personally too, if that's what you believe. That's how we find ourselves in this collective shared experience where I can talk to you, you can talk to me, and we can talk about the things that are going on out there. We're agreeing, we're in resonance about what timeline we are on a macro scale, right? A larger scale. On a micro scale, for our individual, and this is the lesson that's really being shown to people, has been shown to people, especially over the past, I'd say probably since 2012, but even before that, but like really clicked in, let's say like 2020, pandemic times, is like people started to realize like there is a degree of like weirdness and change that we have going on that we now have to deal with as individuals. Our individual realities became more fractured, right? We started, and we can see this just with like the rise of digital technology and social media. There are filter bubbles. There are groups of selections that we make with people and with our attention online that kind of determine now what algorithms feed us, because we've shown interest and they want to see more of those. It kind of solidifies these filter bubbles in a lot of way, which is why a good algorithm should show you things that it think you may like that maybe are just totally random, right? What if you discover something that you didn't even know you liked because it was served to you in a way that it wasn't based on your interests? In fact, just the opposite or something else. I don't know. I just remember like I was downloading a ton of albums back when you had to use FTP, file transfer protocol. It's before like media sharing sites like Napster and stuff. And I'd just go online and I'd see all these folders of like albums that I had never listened to. I didn't know any of these people. I recognized a few names, but I just downloaded everything I could find. And then I'd go and burn it to a CD. Thank you, Nero Burner. Stick it in. It was the Honda Accord at the time, 6-disc changer in the back, and boom, I would listen to these albums when I was driving, and I discovered a ton of new music. That algorithm wouldn't have served me all of those different, types of music and genres of music. It was something like Spotify would go and say, or Apple Music would say, oh, he likes this type of music. Here's way more of that, and maybe let's try to break down what elements he's enjoying within this genre and then serve him genres that have similar elements. It's all based on similarity, where this idea that we could potentially find things that we didn't even know we liked because we have no indication that we would have liked it because we've never seen it. How can you like something that has nothing to do with any of your other interests if you've never seen it? How's an algorithm really going to serve that to you, right? That's not how things are kind of programmed. They're programmed now to curate the best possible experience for you. And best is subjective. If repeatedly watching the same types of media and content, and don't get me wrong, if you love it, you love it. That's totally fine. But if that is not your preference, you're living in a world where you're going to have to exert a little more effort to go and find things. Now, the beauty of it is there's still FTPs. There's programs like SoulSeek, peer-to-peer, Napster-like things that are still around, and you can find all of this music. What I'm suggesting is kind of explore outside of your known, and you may discover things that you had no idea even existed or that you would like, and then find that you love those things. That's a very important kind of explorative journey that we have to make now as individuals. What I was referring to before is it's now becoming more incumbent upon us to take control, have some agency over our lives. And that starts with what we're passionate about, what we're interested in, what we're curious about. And that's something that I would say over the next 2 years or so, riding into 2027, right, which is, I think, is the next really big transitional period of time that we will see as kind of like a point, like a mark in reality, at least our reality, where it's going to be a major shift, and we're going to have learned, not have to, but it will be nice if we would have learned the power we have as individuals and shaping our reality and world and perspectives and staying flexible and open-minded enough to appreciate things related to nuance and not just in binary black and white, or I don't like this person, they're bad because of this, I'm good because of this, that's why you should listen to me. Like, that's going to have to be transcended because there's so many shades of, I don't like a lot of what you're saying, but some of it is really interesting and maybe makes a lot of sense, and I might even agree with it. That's going to need to happen in all facets of life to a higher degree than it is now. I'm not worried about it. People may say and look at the world and say we're going in all these crazy directions, our tech overlords are pushing ideas of life on us that we have little control of because it's so omnipresent in our lives. They're going to be shaping our reality through digital means and AI and all these things, which is probably going to be true to a large extent. But if you believe that's kind of the end game, or that's it, and that's where we're headed, and there's nothing else besides that, I don't agree with that. I think there's always going to be a place for creative expression on an individual level that's independent of even digital technology. It doesn't mean you don't record something, like making music or writing a book. It doesn't mean you're a Luddite and eschew all technology. It's just that in the more old-fashioned way, you pick up a guitar, you record something, maybe with some of these pieces of technology, but you use a very tried and true repetitive process that someone may have been able to do 500-600 years ago, 2,000 years ago. That's why there's almost this like fetishism for like ancient rituals and cultures, they're so revered, the ancient wisdom of the simpler but yet more enlightened people. It's not really like that. It's just they use the tools they had available, and a lot of the time that was like the esoteric imagination that gave them kind of creative agency over their lives. So it was more apparent and more kind of baked in, even as either as a ritual or just some knowledge that was passed down orally, or just like, when I said orally, I just imagined people like they pass down the wisdom by sucking people's dicks. I don't know what's going on with me today. It's been a while since I podcast, so I'm going to be on some, weird non sequitur shifts. Although there was a sequitur there. It's just a gross one. But it'd be weird if that's how people, they transferred wisdom, is by like eating someone out or sucking a dick. And that's how it got passed down. Not like by telling people stories of their like fairy tales and myths. No, just straight up head. That's what it's going to be to get this traditions down the way. Anyway, that's a culture that exists somewhere in multidimensional reality. That's pretty cool for those guys, right? Probably gets a little tiresome over the time, although it's probably very interesting. Imagine you're eating someone out, or you're receiving pleasure and orally, and you're learning ancient wisdom. That's even better, right, than a lot of just head. I mean, it's cool. It's pretty cool. Anyway, don't know what I'm talking about here. But basically, what I'm saying is there's this reverence for ancient wisdom as though there was some better, grass is greener type of situation. And in reality, we have all of that exists in the past. Maybe not in the same, contemporary way that cultures did at the time those things were prevalent and when they were actually going on. But we have access to them. And we have easier access than ever before with these devices that are in most of our hands, or our tablets or our computers, right, to access information at a rate that is astounding. Like it never it's not never. I get actually used to things like most people. It's like you do some amazing magical thing with your phone, you do it like 10 times. You're like, whatever, it's the same shit I do. But there are times where I remember to be amazed at the rapidity of which we can get information and access things, which is pretty cool. So it means if you do find some unexpected source of curiosity, then you can go investigate it in a deeper and richer way in a shorter period of time than really that has ever been, possible in a 3D reality outside of some, telekinesis, astral projection going into the Akashic records type way, right? You can use the device. You don't have to be some wizard who could, speak through his astral body to Gorgex, the keeper of all knowledge. You could just, look on your iPhone or Android and just be like, saying Android is also like such a dumb way of saying this. I know they're not all Androids. I know it's an operating system. I know you have a Galaxy or whatever. I get it. Us iPhone people are stupid. My wife just went through the longest, like a 2-week process, probably not the longest, but a long time to, get a new phone because the other one just died, and then you had the SIM card and the transfer of this and the other thing with that. And it's like, how has Apple gotten worse at getting a new phone? It should be so easy. Boom, I got a new phone. Boom, I put this phone next to the other phone. Boom, all of my stuff is there. No problems. Didn't happen with me either. I got a new phone. Verizon changes the eSIM to this. You can't transfer it over. And it's like a lot of this shit is scary, right? If you have like important accounts and emails or things attached only to your mobile device, it's like this thing is a lifeline. You lose your phone. I thought someone stole my phone for 2 weeks in 2 hours while I was at the beach. Made my whole family, all my kids, like run around frantically looking for my phone. I found it. I dropped it behind a coffee machine and forgot I did that because I was high. But basically, I didn't have my phone for 2 hours, and I'm like, what am I going to do? I have so much information. Just the daily also habits and like dopamine relationship we have with these devices is crazy. So when you get stripped away from you, not because by choice and you can like walk away and not look at it for a few hours because, you know, it's there, but when it's like not there, it's a very stressful period of time, not necessarily even though you're just addicted to it, but because there's so much we do and rely on it for, which is a weird aspect of reality. It's kind of, we have to learn how to be individually curious, expansive, figure out our shit, and also do it with the devices we have, but also not have to rely on them. So that's our problem. That's our task at hand. Not problem, but issue to solve. It's a weird one, not going to lie. The world right now, very weird place, just in so many ways. I'd be remiss if I didn't point out crypto, and crypto's symbolizes, is emblematic of kind of the weirdness in the world, right? Fartcoin, people who bought Fartcoin when I originally talked about it, congratulations. Even though there was a dip, you were never down, we're up bigly, we're having a good time. But Fartcoin is kind of like this symbol of like how weird and ridiculous things are. It does not purport to do anything. It is a coin called Fartcoin that was invented by AI. The AI subsequently sold all of its tokens to some market maker, some big fucking kind of evil Wintermute, kind of fucked up company, like market maker. They move money around, you know, push prices in either direction. Sold it all to them like a doofus, this robot, and then you bought all this other stuff that immediately crashed. And so it was too stupid to realize the genius of its creation. But anyway, it's this perfect coin that kind of like symbolizes how fucking weird and stupid things are. Right? And things are very weird and stupid. And I mean that in kind of the best possible way for Fartcoin. I'm a huge believer. But that is kind of showing us like where we are right now and what potential routes we may want to take to get through this period of, it's like a chaotic node of weirdness, right? Silliness, not taking things too seriously, being creative, being curious. Those are your routes as far as I can see. Those are your best kind of escape hatches, if you want to put it in such drastic, you know, and cataclysmic terms, to get through this period of change and uncertainty, which doesn't mean the uncertainty and change is going to stop. It just means maybe the hyper-focused level of which things are shifting right now tamps down a little bit for a little while, and then things resume being very weird. But we do get these ebbs and flows. And like I said, I think 2027, we're going to have a better intuitive understanding of the world we live in. Hopefully a better appreciation for what is going on around us and inside of us, probably most importantly. And it's going to result in lots of really interesting and cool changes. I do think we are going through a creative explosion right now, which isn't like a going out on a limb thing to say, but that's going to become even more apparent when we look back and realize which kind of specific periods in time represented like a big jump forward in terms of like individual creativity, access, and like it, you know, anyone can now be known by anyone at any point by just recording themselves or doing something or creating something, putting it on social media in a vertical content format, and then all of a sudden it morphs into this, what we call now viral. I wonder if we're going to get rid of the word viral, right? That has to evolve at some point. Is it just going to stick around forever? Viral, like I get it. It totally, we know what it means. It is applicable. But like, there's got to be some other thing. Like we need some more words here. We can't let Gen Z do everything and Gen Alpha with the Skibbities and the 6'7" and the LeBrons. None of this stuff makes any sense. We can't let them control the new words. We're gonna have to work together collaboratively to come up with new words to mean things. Otherwise, we're gonna be zip, zong, and doodle, and you know, gritty is now antiquated. If you're doing the gritty, that's like a lame reference. I don't know if that's actually true. It just feels like that to me already, and I'm too old for the fucking gritty. Right? But I learn, I stay up to date. I ask my kids, specifically my 9-year-old, like, you know, I'll look at the trends that are going around schools, or because I'll see something on TikTok and I'm like, I don't know what they're saying. And some older person is explaining what these words mean. So I'll ask my son, like, are they saying 6'7"? Are they saying 1 pound fish? Are they saying LeBron? Are they saying chicken jockey? And I get the DL on what's going on in the culture and the school. So we can't let Gen Z control the world and Gen Alpha. They don't know what they're doing. I know every older generation thinks that they're so much smarter than the previous one, and what are these newfangled kids doing? But we do have to draw the line kind of at Skibbity, right? We can't have important cultural, quote unquote, important cultural references, right? Be weird phrases and words. Maybe song format or something. Anyway, one of these, what's after Gen Alpha? Beta? What's after Beta? It's like the Sunshine Children. Can we just switch to cool words and cool names? It's like, is the iPhone just going to go iPhone 17, 18, 19 for like 155? They got to change something. They got to do something different. When's that going to happen? Probably 2027. Anyway, we're going to see a big shift in naming conventions for corporate products. Look forward to that. Amazing. That's the type of change I'm talking about. Anyway, I just think we're going to see different groups emerge. It's one of the reasons I won't talk about crypto the whole time, I promise, and I won't drill something home, but I do think it has an important role to play for a lot of these situations evolving, because it involves the ability to seemingly generate money based on awareness and attention in the purest form, in a way that traditional currency and fiat currency lacks. This can kind of pierce the veil of what gives things value, and that is going to lead to a different appreciation and understanding of value and currency, but also B, how people actually make money, and vast sums of money in some cases from not vast sums of money. And that is going to create various enclaves. It's already happening. You may have heard people who are like crypto billionaires or millionaires who've created these kind of like fringe groups or collectives. They'll usually go to Burning Man and have a camp and some weird retro future fucking fuckboy shit. I don't know. I'm just saying that. There's probably cool people, of course. I know people go to Burning Man who are very cool, and even tech bros who go. But anyway, my point is that there's going to be different types of people generating wealth and creativity circles, as I'll call them now, in a very stupid and uncreative way, I'll point out. And that's different. It's not just like tech, right? Tech is really ruling the world now. So this certain type of tech bro, like Zuckerberg, Musk, Bezos, to an like older weird boomer level, so weird, that guy, penis spaceships, those people are from tech, so they're a specific kind of type of person, and a lot of them overtly want to control the destiny of humankind, right? They're explicit about it. Elon wants to go to Mars, and Bezos wants to go to space, and Zuckerberg is doing some weird imitation of a person now who dresses kind of weird and normally, but also like wouldn't be surprised if he wears FUBU at one point. Just like, they're very like vocal about shifting the parameters of reality, because a lot of them were involved with doing just that. And it is natural to assume, if you've changed the kind of needle or course of human history, to think that A, you're capable of doing it all the time, and B, that you're actually good at it. And a lot of times that's not true. A lot of times you got one idea, or maybe two or three if you're very lucky. But to think that you're going to shift the course of history, and listen, dare to dream. Be one of those people by all means. But it's a very kind of specific type of person who is these techno-futurists that are kind of shaping or hoping to shape where reality goes. I think we're going to see a different breed of people emerge, at the same time. Not as necessarily like an antidote but a balancing act between that type of ethos and idea. And I think we're going to see some really cool stuff, right? For too long. And I don't think people have the money they're supposed to have. And when they realize that, and they can augment what they have, where they have it, how they spend it, we're going to see a shift in terms of people who maybe thought they couldn't do something or have something and now possess the ability or the means to do so. And one of the things I'll always point out when it comes to abundance and money, you don't have to possess the money to have the experience or things that you want. There are many different ways to kind of experience the life that you want. Let me put it this way. Let's say you want to live in like some luxury mansion with a pool and amazing stuff and a basketball court, whatever. Do you have to own it, right? Do you have to have the knowledge that some piece of paper says you own this property, therefore you get to experience? What if you were just house sitting for some billionaire in perpetuity for 60 years, forever, however you wanted to live there, and they never came, and it was basically your house. You don't own it. Could be theoretically taken away from you at any time, just like anyone who bought a house in like 2008 realized about their homes, and not necessarily just based on house sitting, but it's the same exact experience if you live there and experience that. So get creative potentially. Don't narrow down when it comes to manifesting the way it has to be. Resonate with the experience of being, having, even doing in some cases. That's more important. If you get too specific and try to like control what it is you're trying to create, things tend to get wonky, and often they don't work, or you feel they don't work, so you give up, and the outcome is, that's what it is, right? You kill the dream. You dig up the seed that was going to bloom into the amazing thing you imagined, right? So, don't necessarily try to curate every aspect. We're also really bad at it. It's like if people who, come for readings, or when I was doing readings, I haven't done those in a while either, with relationships, and they want a specific person, right? I'm like, don't do the person. Do the relationship and the way you'd feel, and the type of person, the way they made you feel. Do that. And if the person you specifically want and your intuition was good enough and it guided you to this person in 3D, that will happen. But it doesn't matter if it happens. You see, if you feel amazing in a relationship, if this person is giving you the way, the feelings and evoking from you what you want in a relationship, does it matter who it is? Who gives a shit? It could be someone completely out, you would never imagined that type of person. Those are typically the best relationships too. There is something to be said to being physically attracted to someone, right? That can have a resonance in reality. I think people desire that, but it certainly isn't like the feeling of the best relationship ever supersedes that, I would say. They're not mutually exclusive, just to be clear. So I don't want to make it seem like I gotta take someone I find repulsive and ugly, but they make me feel good. Well, you wouldn't, number one. And number two, no, that's not actually how it works. And there's someone for everyone. Isn't that a nice way of putting it? All right, listen, pretty good, right? I haven't been podcasting, and God, I don't even know. When's the last fucking time I released the podcast? I have no fucking idea. But feel like I haven't lost a step. Feel like did write no notes. Can you tell? Speaking like a fucking idiot. But I feel pretty good. Feel pretty good about that. There will be another one soon. Maybe it's like, how Noah got his groove back. And I'm like, I actually like doing that. Maybe I'll do that again next week. Wouldn't that be weird if I just started up another 5-year cycle of weekly podcasts? Wouldn't necessarily count on that, but maybe that combined with the Patreon, we can set some type of streak, get something going. Who knows? Anyway, good to be back. All the regular stuff, like I mentioned, the Patreon is active. It's just content. If you're lacking and hurting, it's a lot of what you heard today. That stuff. Crypto stuff still going on. If you're interested, I listen, I don't really have spaces for clients. There are people who, will realize that when things are skyrocketing and everything is going crazy, that's not the worst time sometimes to get into crypto. But when there's kind of a lull and you haven't heard too much about it, and you check and hey, things aren't that bad, but no one's really it hasn't explosively shot up. That's a good time. That's a better time. That's why when you things are not looking great in the markets, but there seems to be some type of that. Those are opportunity moments. Everyone, when there's a gold rush and sees there's something, there's a meme I put up in the Discord, right? Which we talk about crypto. There's people doing amazing things in there that I still haven't gotten involved with and are just killing it. Amazing shit. People find things, they share things. It's great. But anyway, I put up a picture of it's a picture of a sign with $1 fart coin and then $10 fart coin. And there's one person in line for the $1 fart coin they want to buy, and all of the people are in the $20, $25 fart coin line. Because then it's apparent that this is a thing. Try to be predictive and resonate with timelines. A little hack here for abundance. Not that I have it all figured out, but, resonate with the timeline that makes the most sense to you and you can vibe with. It's a very interesting way of working with abundance and finding out your relationship to money. And crypto it's not just, that's why in the course that I did, there's a huge section about kind of the spiritual philosophical, ethical reasons that I think crypto is interesting and cool, and why I think for a lot of people it could potentially be. There is an overlap of spirituality and crypto. It's a very fine line to walk. You will see many a huckster and charlatan kind of branding themselves as someone who has nailed the intersection of the mysticism of crypto. I think that's possible. It's something I've been interested in since I found out about Bitcoin, even more so than the money making opportunity, because it wasn't really making anyone money back then. But it's a very interesting, cool thing. So if it resonates with you and it vibes with you, you can, of course, send me a message and I'll figure out. What's cool is I have levels of support now for crypto, because the reason I did this, and I've mentioned this before, it's not because I had some let me make some money from a crypto course and a Discord. It's because I got so many questions and still get a lot of questions. And rather than repeating myself over and over and over again, I was like, let me create some resources where people have no money, they can learn some shit. They have some money, they want to invest. If they want to invest a lot more, if they want to kind of really understand this on a fundamental level, there's levels to this shit. So those are out there. There's the course, there's the Discord, there is, consulting, all of this stuff. So you know where to find me, noah@syncpodcast.com. You guys are the best. I'm glad to be back. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.